We are in the heart of the fantasy football season, and if you're watching this video, you probably have a very important draft coming up soon. Well, welcome to the right place, because I'm going to give you the ultimate guide for the running back position this year. We are ranking the top 40 running backs, not now, but right now. And we start with the guy up top, and it's Christian McCaffrey. And look, we actually have something new to talk about with Christian McCaffrey, because he actually recently was injured. You can see right here, he ends up having a calf strain. A calf strain injury is what his coach says. He's not going to be playing in the preseason, but they're thinking right now that he's probably going to be playing week 1. And here's the deal. With a calf strain, if it's not a serious thing, it should only be 1 to 2 weeks. It's something that has a very low re-injury rate, so McCaffrey should be fine. He's still the #1 overall pick. Now, next up, I want to talk about Breece Hall, the Jets starting running back, who is currently having a great camp, and now he gets Aaron Rodgers back. But not only that, this is going to be Breece Hall and Aaron Rodgers behind a brand new Jets offensive line. You can see right here, PFF has this unit as a top 5 offensive line, the most improved offensive line in the entire NFL this offseason. They were a bottom 5 unit last year because they signed Tyron Smith. They traded for Morgan Moses, as you can see right here. They added a tackle in the draft. They added another guard in free agency as well. So it's a brand new starting unit. And this is a guy in Breece Hall who already dominated for 1,600 total yards last year without that offensive line, without Aaron Rodgers coming off of a torn ACL. And now all those things have improved. It's another breakout year, or another big year for Hall. Now, a lot of people only have 1 running back in their tier 1. I have 3. And the third and final running back in that tier 1 is going to be Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons, because as of right now, he's getting all the starter touches in camp, and it looks like he's going to have a much larger workload in this new offense. If you're not familiar, as a rookie, he had a great season. I mean, if you're looking at Bijan Robinson's season last year, look at his rushing and receiving yards, almost 1,000 rushing yards. You can see right here, his receiving yards about 500. This guy had nearly 1,500 total yards, and the dude was only seeing 12.5 carries per game. Not a great workload. If you look at his opportunity share last year, he earned just 52% of his team's opportunities, 31st in the NFL, and he put up over 1,500 yards. Now he's reportedly expected to see a larger role in the offense with new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson there, so it's wheels up for Bijan. Now, some people might be concerned about this quote from the head coach, or the offensive coordinator, I should say, Zach Robinson. Certainly, Tyler Algier is going to have a big role, and that's at certain points in the season we're going to be leaning on him more. But this already makes sense. People are double counting this. We know that Tyler Algier is a good running back. He's been a good running back for them the last 2 years. He's not just going to fade away. He's still going to play 30 to 45% of the snaps depending on the game. Don't overrate what that quote is. He's just already saying, yeah, he's going to have a role. Of course, we know that. And now my tier 2 starts with Saquon Barkley, who he's now going to be a top 5 running back for me, because he's behind a top 5 offensive line in Philadelphia in a borderline top 5 offense. And yeah, Saquon's joining a new offense, but it's also a new offense being installed there with Kellen Moore, the new play caller in town. But that should only benefit the Eagles, because they're going to play at a faster pace and use more pre-snap motion, which usually helps the running backs. As I mentioned, this is going to be a top 5 line for Saquon Barkley. It honestly might be one of the best in the NFL. Right now, PFF has it as the #2 unit in the NFL. Despite losing Jason Kelce, they still have Cam Jurgens, and Cam Jurgens was handpicked by Jason Kelce a couple years back. It should still be a very good unit, and we're just talking about having a new running back in Saquon Barkley, a guy who is 6 foot, but more importantly, 233 pounds. This is somebody they haven't had since LeGarrette Blount in the red zone, this Philadelphia Eagles team at the running back position. Somebody with a lot of size and power in their lower body, and that's what Saquon's going to bring them. I think he's going to be pushing towards a 10 to 12 plus touchdown season. Now, my running back 5 is going to differ from a lot of people. He's not even some people's top 10s, which is crazy to me, and it's Derrick Henry, who right now there's some hype generating in the Baltimore Ravens camp, and you can see right here that their head coach, John Harbaugh, said that Justice Hill, one of the backup running backs, is a high caliber running back. I think he's going to play a lot, and he referred to him as a starting caliber running back. Now, here's the thing. People are getting out of pocket about this. They're going a little bit crazy. Justice Hill has been on this team for 4 years now. He's never had a consistently significant role. I don't think that's going to all of a sudden be the case this year when they just spent money and signed Derrick Henry, the king himself. And look, Henry just gives this team chances to score a ton of touchdowns thanks to his size and his just proven red zone role as a veteran. He is projected to score 10.5 touchdowns right now by Vegas, the highest I've seen for any running back. He's going to have a big year. Now, my one concern would be this offensive line. PFF currently has them ranked entering the year as the 25th unit. They just lost a ton of pieces this offseason. Both John Simpson and Morgan Moses are now on the Jets. Kevin Zeitler ends up going to the Detroit Lions. Ronnie Stanley is somebody who has not been the same player after having an injury and now getting a little bit older. So the offensive line is a concern here. Derrick Henry has dealt with that in the past, and it hasn't been an issue. Lamar Jackson being a mobile running back gives him, or mobile quarterback, gives Derrick Henry a little bit more of a benefit. It keeps the defense honest. It makes the linebackers hesitate. So I'm not as concerned with the offensive line, but if I had to pick a concern, it would be that. Now, my next man up is my running back 6. We are in tier 2 here, and it's Jonathan Taylor, who I'm expecting a big season now that he's finally healthy, which hasn't been the case in 2 seasons. And you can see that right here on his games played on Player Profiler. He only played 10 games last year, 11 games the year before that. So we really haven't seen a healthy season since 2021, the last time that he was fully himself, and he had that massive 332 touch season, over 2,100 rushing yards. Check that, over 2,100 total yards, and now his veteran competition from last year in Zach Moss is no longer with the team, and his biggest competition is currently guys like Trey Sermon, who are banged up in camp. Evan Hull, who only had like 2 career touches last year. I'm really not sure where the competition is going to come from. We've got gotten quotes out of Colts camp that it's just going to be the Jonathan Taylor show. 3 down back might lead the NFL in touches this year, and that's all that we need to hear for the former number 1 overall pick in fantasy. And it does help that he's going to have a mobile quarterback like we talked about with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in Anthony Richardson out there. And look, Jonathan Taylor says it himself. You're not just going to have to worry about what I'm doing. You better also worry about this guy too, meaning Anthony Richardson, because if not, he's going to kill you. And that's exactly what these running backs benefit from having a mobile quarterback. The defense has to worry about the quarterback as well, which means there's not as much attention on the running back. There's a little bit of hesitancy. And when you're a great runner like Jonathan Taylor, they're going to make you pay. Now, my running back 7 is Jahmyr Gibbs, the Lions' second-year back. And now, of course, he did just suffer an injury this week in camp. And this injury in practice on Monday, not a great one. It's a hamstring injury for Jahmyr Gibbs. But the good news is, at least as of right now, there's no additional reports that this is apparently serious. And if it's just a mild hamstring, that's normally something that could heal in 3 days, and at most, it'll probably take a week or 2. And with Sports MD Analysis, a doctor on Twitter, Deepak, my friend here, he says Jahmyr Gibbs data favors playing week 1 with mild performance hit. He says he would go on to say, like, okay, maybe now we don't want to take him in round 1, but this channel wasn't recommending you take him in round 1 anyways. That's why he's our running back 7 after a couple of guys like Saquon and Jonathan Taylor that I'd rather have. But assuming that the injury is not serious, and it's not one of these injuries that, it's a hamstring grade 2, which I'm currently dealing with and can take up to 8 weeks to heal, or obviously a torn hamstring, which might end his season. Assuming it is just a minor hamstring, a grade 1 strain, and it'll only be a week or 2, well, then you get Jahmyr Gibbs coming into year 2 behind the number 1 offensive line in football, and as a rookie, he was top 10 in all these metrics. Yards per touch, juke rates, your broken tackles per touch. You have here breakaway tackles, explosive runs is what that basically is of 10 plus yards, second in explosive run rate. I mean, he did everything great last year, now as the same play caller and a team that loves to run the ball in the red zone and should see an even larger role this year, again, behind that number 1 offensive line. My number 8 running back, we're still in tier 2 here, is going to be Devon Etienne, and I wrote a recent piece on Yahoo. Yes, we're partnered with Yahoo Fantasy once again this year. We were partners entering the season on some pieces of work. I wrote a recent piece saying that I think out of all of the players right now, the most difficult guy to decide a ranking on is Devon Etienne, because he could very easily win championships this year or lose them for you. And the reason why he can help you win them is pretty obvious. Last year, he set an NFL record, averaging 7.7 yards per touch. He had 6.6 yards per carry on the ground. He was just absolutely explosive, but of course, at the exact same time, now he goes in the second rounds of drafts. He's not a sleeper anymore. People are drafting him highly, and this was a guy that was on the injury report for 11 weeks last year. That's 65% of his games he was either dealing with an injury or missed time due to an injury. And I mean, it makes sense because this guy entering the league, a big concern for him was that he was small. He was only 188 pounds. Apparently, he's put on more muscle this offseason. Now, the question is how much muscle? Is it just like 2 or 3 pounds? Did he actually get 10 pounds of muscle on, which is very difficult to do in one offseason? But these are the things that you're going to have to decide on, because obviously he's not going to remain that efficient, 7.7 yards per touch, but he could still average 5 or 6 in this offense thanks to his elite speed. And you can see some of those quotes happening right now in camp from his offensive coordinator, Frank Smith. He says, you can tell that it's year 2 from him. He's made substantial growth, and I think this camp will be really good the next couple weeks for him to show even more growth. Apparently, some more reports have come out that he has been good. The weight has been put on. So this is kind of an up to you type of thing. I'm currently ahead of the market on him because I do think his upside is actually worth considering at this point where he's going in drafts, but I know some people will be skittish. Now, I don't know if I said that word right, skittish, or whatever, Skittles. Let's not spend too much time there. Now, my tier 2 is big, right? The tier 1 has 3 guys in it. My tier 2, now we're going to my running back 9, and it is Kyren Williams, who's the number 2 running back in fantasy football last year, but now he's being drafted at the end of the second round because the team added a rookie running back in the 3rd round, and that man's name is Blake Corum, who is a great college running back. Now, a lot of people are overweighting Blake Corum, in my opinion, right now. I think the guy is very talented, but he went in the 3rd round, and Kyren Williams was extremely efficient last year, could pass protect and catch passes, and every time head coach Sean McVay talks about Kyren Williams, he's saying positive things. He was an instrumental part he's going to be this year as well. You know that he's smart about it. He's mindful of it. He's talking about everything in terms of just how he's going into this year preparation-wise to stay healthy and kind of expand his game. Every time he talks about Kyren Williams, he's gushing. Every time he talks about the rookie Blake Corum, he says, the guy's going to have to prove it, right? You can kind of read between the lines. Sean McVay wants to ride Kyren Williams again. Pause. So I do think Blake Corum is a quality back and will be involved more than any of these other guys were last year in Zach Evans and Ronnie Rivers, but that's not saying much because Kyren Williams led the NFL in snaps. Even if his snaps go now from 85% to 75%, that's still one of the 5 to 10 best roles in football. Now my final player, and I promise, my final player in tier 2 at the running back position is my running back 10, Isaiah Pacheco, who is checking every single box, no pun intended right now for fantasy. This is a guy who once again is going to have a top 10 offensive line led by Joe Thuney. This has been an offensive line that has been great ever since they got smacked around in the Super Bowl by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. The offensive offensive line for the Chiefs is always great. So you're getting a guy running behind a great offensive line with no new added competition. I mean, Keontae Ingram, a depth piece, if anything. Actually, Jerick McKinnon is gone, so the competition is even easier. And all the quotes right now at a Chiefs camp are great. You can see Andy Reid saying right now here that Isaiah Pacheco will fill the third down role with Jerick McKinnon gone. He says Pacheco's ready to do all of that. He's good with the protection, so pass protection, that's a plus. He's good with his technique and fundamentals in pass protection, and he can run all the routes and has great hands. This part right here, run all the routes and has great hands, that is massive. And that's in line with the other reports we got this offseason, that Pacheco all off season this year has been working with a wide receivers coach to improve his hands, become an even better pass catcher. He's a complete back in a great offense. This dude is in a stud position to just win leagues in round 2 or 3 of your drafts. All right, we've now entered tier 3. My running back 11 is Travis Etienne, who had a solid offseason, if I'm being honest with you. Really, we didn't get much news out of him. The only news that we did get is this constant news that right now Tanks Bigsby is having a strong camp, the backup running back, and that the team wants to use him more this year, more so because they just don't want Travis Etienne to take on a large workload and get hurt. Now, in my honest opinion, we actually have to see this first because last year Tanks Bigsby was not good. I mean, this guy dropped 3 of his 4 targets, literally dropped 3 of his 4 targets, and only averaged 2.6 yards per carry. Of course, he was a rookie. Now he's entering year 2, so maybe with less expectations and another year in the system, this could get better. But even if it does, this is not going to be a guy that's actually threatening for significant touches. You're still going to have Etienne seeing the passing down role, the red zone role, and the far majority of the touches here. He's a top 12 back. Now, the one concern you could have with Etienne and this Jacksonville team is their offensive line. Right now, it looks like one of the bottom 5 offensive lines in the NFL, but they did add Mitch Morris as center in free agency. They drafted a tackle, Javon Foster, so we're hoping that these 2 new pieces to the offensive line can actually help it and maybe make it closer to average this year. Last year, they were a bottom 3 offensive line. PFF has them as like the 23rd ranked unit, so they are improving a little bit. That's all we need. Slight improvement for this to be a home run for Travis Etienne. Now, my running back 12 is Joe Mixon, the clear running back 1 for the Houston Texans that I believe they're going to run more than people expect. Yes, they ended up signing Stephon Diggs. They have 3 good receivers, but this is still going to be a team that's going to utilize the run to set up the play action and just keep a defense honest. That's what Bobby Slowick likes to do. And now Mixon is an aging running back. He hasn't been efficient the last 2 seasons, but that's really not going to be an issue because he's going to see a large opportunity share in a good offense, and he's going to get all of the valuable touches, the red zone touches and the passing down touches. And not to mention his own offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, was gushing over him recently in camp, saying that when they said just to describe Joe Mixon, he said, I describe him as a workhorse. He's an absolute workhorse in every regard. He got giddy. He started laughing a little bit, even like unprompted just started laughing. So this is going to be a guy in Joe Mixon who maybe this is his final run to be a very fantasy relevant running back. You can get him in like round 5 of drafts. I'm a big fan of him right now. And I'm also a big fan of letting you all know about the Fantasy Blueprint, which over nearly 15,000 of you are currently using to help you prepare for your drafts and win your league. If you want to do the same, you just click this button and check this out right here. You can get the blueprint. It has all those tools to help you with your draft in every week of the season, risk-free completely this year if you sign up through one of our 2 partners below. On this page, it's linked down below. Now, what does that mean, Sal? Risk-free means if you don't make your fantasy playoffs, I 100% refund you. It's a $10 payment, just $10 for the entire year. Not just for your draft, but every single week during the season, I send you a tool every day to help you with waivers, your rankings, your projections, your matchups, whatever it might be. And again, if you don't make your fantasy league, that's absolutely refunded. It is completely risk-free. You just reach out saying I didn't make it for whatever reason. You get your $10 right back. It is risk-free. And again, over 15,000 people have used and are currently using the blueprint this year. You can join them by clicking the link in the description below or scanning this lovely QR code on the screen right here to join all those beautiful people. Join us in the blueprint, the Discord, the community chat, ask questions, and hey, I'll see you there. That takes us to our running back 13. We're still in tier 3 here, and there's Rashad White, who's coming off of a massive 330 touch season, but now there's a new play caller in town, so how's this going to change things? And that new play caller is Liam Combs, who comes over from the Rams, so it still should be an efficient offense. During the Rams, you're going to get a lot of play action, a lot of pre-snap motion, just a lot of usage for the running back in the passing game as well, so this should actually help Rashad White, in my opinion, because Liam Combs is right now replacing Dave Canales, who leaned on Rashad White as a workhorse last year. And the only new competition for Rashad White is Buck Irvin, a 4th-round rookie out of Oregon, who apparently is having some up and down days in camp. Some days it's good, some days it's not. But Bucky Irving is a smaller running back. I mean, relative to NFL standards, he's a smaller running back at 192 pounds. You'd like to see your running backs at least around 205 or so. And he's a slower running back relative to his size. Now, he's not super slow. This dude ran, if you see right here, a 4.55. But for his size, this is the type of speed that you would like to see a guy who's like 220 pounds show you as an elite athlete. So he's not an elite athlete relative to NFL players. He's a smaller guy. Those things just don't work out well when you get to the NFL, at least more times than not. So I think Rashad White's role as a workhorse is fine. Now, my running back 14 is Josh Jacobs, and honestly, he's starting to slowly move up for me right now. He's getting all the nice coach speak out of camp, and the other guys in his backfield just aren't. They're dealing with injuries or just inefficiency right now. So Jacobs, the new Packers running back, is slowly moving up for me. Look, right now in camp, Josh Jacobs is getting all the hype as having a pass catching role with the Packers. AJ Dillon, they're saying, is in better shape. He looks a little bit better, but nothing crazy. And the rookie Marshawn Lloyd, who a lot of people were all getting up in arms about, 3rd-round pick, he's had a hip injury, he's had fumbling issues, and now he's dealing with a hamstring issue that might keep him out 3 to 6 weeks. weeks and he might not be ready week 1. Even if he is, I'm not really secure thinking that he's going to take the touches away from Jacobs. Jacobs is a surefire RB1 for this team. And sure, Jacobs stunk last year, but he also led the NFL with 7.2 defenders in the box on average. He just saw these stacked boxes because no one was scared about Aiden O'Connell. No one was scared about Jimmy G, the Raiders quarterbacks. That should change now in a better Packers offense with Jordan Love. He should see more running lanes. And as I mentioned, some of the good reports coming out, here's Matt LaFleur just gushing about Josh Jacobs. I just get so excited that he can do it all, right? He ends up hyping up his passing game role as well, which is something he's done now a couple of times this offseason. We've seen Josh Jacobs since entering the NFL have 40 and 50 reception seasons. I don't doubt that he can't do that in this offense this year. The next man up is my running back 15 in tier 3, and that is the Buffalo Bills starting running back James Cook, who quietly last season was 5th in yards per touch and had 1,500 total yards, and it's like no one even cares. But the reason why he barely finished as a top 20 running back and not a top 10 option is because he only had 6 rushing touchdowns, which is actually pretty much a lot based on the way that they were using him, based on the fact that his quarterback Josh Allen had 15 rushing touchdowns, and they were giving the ball to Latavius Murray and Damian Harris over James Cook in the red zone more often than not. So now the question becomes, is it going to be James Cook getting more red zone touches or the rookie Ray Davis, who looks like the clear running back 2 based on the first preseason games usage right now? Is it going to be Ray Davis, who's a little bit bigger and has that red zone experience from his time in college, or do they give a little bit more to James Cook this year? I think it's a little bit of both, which means James Cook should technically see a better role, but will he continue to have these 1,500-yard seasons? That's where the question comes into play on an offense that might actually be getting a little bit worse this year in Buffalo. We remain in tier 3 with my running back 16, Kenneth Walker, and look, it's kind of been a quiet offseason for Kenneth Walker. Nothing good, nothing bad, no new running backs added. If anything, it's going to be a new offense in general with new play caller Ryan Grubb coming in, who wants to be a pass-catching play caller or more pass-friendly play caller from his time in college, used 3 wide receivers, the running back in the passing game. And a lot of people, including myself, believe that this means Zach Charbonnet, the backup running back, would see more usage as the better pass catcher, but you can see right here, Ryan Grubb's hyping up Kenneth Walker. I think he gets better every single day, okay, and then he says that he's a powerful back with a true 3-tool guy. He's electric out of the backfield as a pass catcher as well. So now that's something we haven't really seen in the NFL, him being electric, but this is a guy who's been seeing him practice the last couple of months. Kenneth Walker reportedly working on his pass catching abilities more, and if Ryan Grubb is saying that as the offensive coordinator, it means he's probably seeing something, so it's something to at least store. Especially when we start to see these reports become more of a little bit of a drumbeat, right? We're not just seeing them from the head coach, we're seeing them from a reporter in Albert Breer, who went out there and said Kenneth Walker was the star of Monday's practice, right? You end up seeing that he looks like the kind of back you can play on all 3 downs, right? So this is a guy talking not as a part of the team to just hype up one of his players like the coach Ryan Grubb. This is a third-party reporter coming in and saying, yeah, they're actually giving him this 3-down usage and workload, something to keep in mind. It's pretty good for Kenneth Walker. The one thing that wouldn't be good for Kenneth Walker is the fact that the Seahawks offensive line right now, according to PFF, ranks 31st entering the season. This offseason, they lose Evan Brown and Damian Lewis, some veterans that were on that offensive line, so they brought in some pieces. They brought in a lot of, you can say, just fringe starting pieces, so we'll see how that works out for them. A little bit concerned overall, so the offensive line is the big concern, not just for the running game, by the way, but also the passing game and all those wide receivers in Geno and Noah Fant. Alrighty, gang, I promise it's my final guy in tier 3 here, and it's going to be the veteran Alvin Kamara, who honestly, he's had a great offseason so far. For starters, the Saints didn't bring in any new competition for Alvin Kamara. Nothing in free agency. You can see right here on, this is the Fantasy Blueprint team tracker. Every single team changed for the draft on offenses and subtractions and additions. You can check it out. It can help you prepare for your draft, understanding where you're currently at, where all these players are currently at and what their teams look like. And then in the NFL draft, they only drafted a first-round tackle, Talise Fuaga, which only helps the backfield. So no running backs were brought in, and the offensive line, in theory, was improved. And then the main competition for Alvin Kamara was Kendre Miller, who was already injured in camp, dealing with a hamstring injury right now, and it just looks like for the second straight year, he's going to start the season slow. And look, Kamara wasn't good last year. He ranked 45th in yards per carry as a rusher. I don't know what that 45th, I could barely spit it out, but 45th, you get the gist. All right, calm down. And you can see average 4.5 yards per touch. This was terrible, but the reason why he was so good last year is this right here. He ended up catching 75 balls, a bunch of checkdowns from Derek Carr, second most amongst the running backs. And honestly, I don't really think that that's going to change all that much last year or from last year, because Derek Carr wasn't pass protected well. He had to get the ball out quick, and the offensive line this year is still going to be bad. PFF currently has this unit ranked as the 32nd, dead last in the league after they lost Ryan Ramczyk, who ended up not going to be, or ended up getting hurt and won't play for the season. It is the worst unit in the league. Now, that doesn't help Kamara as a runner, but it could help him pick up some more checkdowns. And if it means anything to you, recently in camp, we were getting some positives from a Nick Underhill, a beat writer, a very good beat writer for the Saints. He says, offensive line has been shining the last couple of days. This has kind of been a trend, but again, that's against some defenses, some backup defenses in Saints camp. We'll see once the season starts to go. I'm a little bit skeptical. It'll stay high. To tier 4 we go, and it's kicked off by my running back 18, David Montgomery, who last year was a consistent producer, was a top 15 running back in fantasy, and now he has the same play caller behind the number 1 offensive line in football with the Lions. And the Lions lead the NFL the past 2 seasons in running back red zone touchdowns and run rate in the red zone. Now I introduce you to my running back 19, Aaron Jones, who signed the following day after the Packers signed him with division rival, the Minnesota Vikings. And they signed him so quick quick because they know how good Aaron Jones is. He's killed him over the years. However, he did struggle last year, ranking 30th in broken tackle rate and 38th in explosive run rate. And then you have these other concerns that he's on a new offense with an uncertain quarterback situation. Aaron Jones is approaching 30 years old and he's dealing with a backup running back who's explosive in Ty Chandler. So now we remain in tier 4 and we look at my running back 20, and it's a guy that I really like right now in Najee Harris. Look, he's slightly ahead of Jaylen Warren in my rankings. You'll see where Warren is in a second. And here's the thing. This team is just going to run at a top 5 rate, if not the number 1 rate in football under new play caller Arthur Smith, who has gone on record saying he's going to run 50% of the time, which would have led the NFL last year. And now in general, I think Warren, based on the fact that he goes 2 or 3 rounds later, is the better fantasy pick. I won't have him ranked higher, but he's the better fantasy pick because he goes like 15 to 20 picks later, and they're very close in my rankings. Warren has more upside overall, but it's still going to be Najee Harris, the guy who's earning 250 plus carries. And in this offense, behind what I would consider a top 10 offensive line, and so does PFF, you can see right here, that's going to be a situation where you can easily score 10 touchdowns. They spent their first 2 picks in the NFL draft on their offensive line, including improving their center position by getting Zach Frazier, just an aggressive, really big guy. Physicality at the center position really fits Pittsburgh football really well. So I think that Najee Harris has upside this year to score 10 plus touchdowns for sure. Now for my running back 21, we go to New England, and it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson, who's one of the least talked about running backs this offseason right now in fantasy circles, in my opinion. And I kind of get it. This isn't an offense that excites you in New England. But this team is definitely going to run more this year. They threw a lot last year just because they were forced to, but now they have a new offensive coordinator, comes over from the Browns, and Alex Van Pelt, and he likes to run the ball. You could see here just a couple of quotes from the Patriots camp. Their new rookie receiver, Jalen Polk, said that Gerard Mayo has told them that this is going to be a running team this season. Again, it makes sense based on the personnel, based on what they did this offseason in their play calling and getting a new offensive coordinator. You can see right here as well, another quote comes out from Ramondre Stevenson. Alex Van Pelt's run zone is his favorite kind of offense to play. And this is similar to what he played in college, Ramondre Stevenson, when he was one of the most productive backs in college that year, not only as a rusher, but also as a receiver. And since then, he's only gotten in better shape and improved even more as a receiver. So all of these things sound like positives for the Patriots offense. But again, the quarterback situation is uncertain. The wide receiver situation is uncertain. How much can we trust this offense to sustain drives and get to the red zone? That's where I'm a little bit sketched out. And I'm also sketched out by the fact that PFF has them as a bottom 5 offensive line right now, 28th in the NFL, and there's really not any standout. This is the guy, absolutely lead offensive lineman, which is a concern because if just one injury happens on that line, you don't really have an anchor to hold down one side of the line. All right, now we get to my running back 22, and this is where Jaylen Warren is. You can see he's just 2 spots behind Najee Harris. He is my number 1 breakout candidate, currently my favorite running back pick in every single draft, because here's the deal. This dude put up 1,200 yards last year as a backup, playing less than 50% of the snaps. And as a backup, playing 49% of the snaps or so, he finished as a top 30 running back while only scoring 4 touchdowns. Now, based on his usage last year of 200 plus touches, this number should have been around 6 or 7 touchdowns, which would have put him as a top 24 back. And in my opinion, he should be going there this year, but he's currently not in drafts, which is a little strange considering what we showed you about Najee Harris, or I showed you that they have a top 10 offensive line, even more improved after the NFL draft, and a run-first offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. And here's that quote I was talking about with Arthur Smith from earlier this offseason. You can kind of weigh it as much as you want, but he says that his ideal way to kind of go about this offense, we're going to have 1,100 plays, 550 carries to split up. So it's a 50% run rate. Of course, this is just talk. It's not like when actually the bullets are flying, how much will he run? Well, last year, he was top 3 in run rate. The year before that, number 1 in run rate with the Falcons. We remain in tier 4 with my running back 23, and it's a veteran running back who's been very consistent the last 2 years, and that is James Conner. Now, Conner is a guy who last year, like a Jaylen Warren, totaled about 16 or about 1,200 total yards. As a rusher, was 6th in the NFL, adds 165 receiving yards. This is also a guy who last year, from week 13 on, was the number 2 running back in fantasy points behind only Christian McCaffrey. Now, the downside for James Conner is he's an aging back at 29 years old. He's missed on average 4 games per season in his career. He has a suspect offensive line and an exciting running back behind him in the rookie Trey Benson. But this all seems to kind of be accounted for right now, in my opinion, because he goes in the 5th round. So I think he's a decent draft pick. He's not like a priority option for me compared to Jaylen Warren and some of the other guys we've talked about. And his running back that he'll be competing with in his backfield in Trey Benson has reportedly had a slow start to camp and hasn't looked all that good through their first preseason game. So something to keep in mind. It looks like Conner definitely to start the year is the clear running back 1 in Arizona. Next up is my running back 25. You can see him like right down here, Mr. Tony Pollard. And Tony Pollard is going to be in a pretty clear, it seems, 2 running back committee right now. You can see this tweet right here by Wolf of Roto Street. They released their official depth chart, and it had Tony Pollard and Taj Spears listed as a 1A, 1B. They were both listed as starters, and that's what the coaches have said all all off season. After the first preseason game, you can see my tweet and Instagram post out there. Their usage was split pretty even, Steven, if you will, evenly, 55-45% of the snaps back and forth. It looks like this is going to be a split backfield. But I wouldn't totally write off Tony Pollard because he's going to be in a split backfield. This is a guy who's going in round 8. And before last year, when he's been self-admittedly, last year was dealing with coming off of his off-season ankle surgery and that affected him. Now he's going to have a smaller role, which is exactly where he was his most efficient, not carrying a large workload during his time with Dallas. And during that time, we were drafting him as like a 4th or 5th round pick. Round 8, it could be a steal. Now, the one thing that could hold that back is PFF has this unit as the 30th ranked offensive line entering the year. I will say, though, that this is a unit that could be a little bit better in the running game. They ended up drafting a top 10 tackle in J.C. Latham. They ended up signing a center in Lloyd Cushenberry, who's a nice option for them. So in the running game, it might be closer to like the offensive line ranked number 20, but again, still a suspect unit from that regard. So that's why he's a little bit further down my rankings. Now we get to tier 5, and it starts with my running back 25, DeAndre Swift, who the Bears ended up signing almost immediately. Well, right when free agency opened, they signed DeAndre Swift not only as the first running back off the board, but the first overall player off the board. And it kind of makes some sense as to why they like him. He's been effective and efficient and explosive in his NFL career, and he's still just 25 years old, coming off of his healthiest season yet last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I must address this, and you can see this from my Twitter thread right here about the preseason week 1 usage. Their usage was absolutely wild. Swift started, which was kind of expected, but only saw 10% of the starter snaps. It was Khalil Herbert who saw 70% of the snaps in 9 carries, and even Travis Homer was involved with Roschon Johnson being injured, so 3 running backs were involved. I call this backfield an avoid right now in drafts. But the key word here is right now, because look, by the time you're watching this, more news might have came out. Maybe that was the plan, just to get DeAndre Swift out there and get him out there a little bit and flowing. They know he's a starter, and then they pulled him. Maybe he ended up tweaking something, or he thought he felt a little tightness and they took him out of the game. We need more information. As of right now, based on the money they're giving him, I do think he's still the running back 1, but of course, this is a fluid situation. We have to see as camp and the preseason go on. And it's just been a little odd to see that preseason usage, at least in week 1, because everything out of camp has been good. His own general manager said he's been outstanding when asked to name like the number 1 player in camp right now. A lot of people, his general manager included Ryan Poles, said really good dude, a hard worker that shows up and grinds, but it's not just a general manager who gave him the money and is incentivized to say that. It's also all the beat reporters out there saying that he looks like the clear running back 1. But then this usage in the first preseason game, so it looks like a little bit of a suspect situation. I don't want to draw any conclusions from 1 or 2 drives on this specific case the preseason. And a lot of people will say, oh, he's not behind the Eagles' top offensive line. Yeah, but he's still behind a good offensive line. Quietly last year, the Bears had a top 5 or top 10 offensive line the second half of the year, and it looks like it's going to be that to start this year. My running back 26 is the rookie Jonathan Brooks, who some of his hype has cooled down because of the fact that this news report came out right here about him, the Panthers rookie running back, the 2nd round pick. They said that he won't play in any preseason games, and he could start the season on the PUP list, meaning that he would miss at least 4 weeks, but they're hoping to get him back by week 3 or week 4. So a lot of people, look, here's the deal. We already knew him coming off of a November ACL injury from last year. He was going to probably be ramped up to start the season and not really see a full workload until like week 2, 3, or 4. So this doesn't change anything in my opinion, but it's definitely going to change things in your draft for all of your friends that are seeing the injury tag by him and he might miss a couple weeks and people won't want to be patient. But this is the exact type of back that you want to bank on. A young guy at 21 years old. He has size. He has good enough speed right here, as you can see, for his size. It's a guy who can not only pass protect, but catch passes, can win in between the tackles, can break tackles, something that the other guys in this backfield, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, can't do as consistently and good as Jonathan Brooks, in my opinion. And just keep in mind, his new head coach, Dave Canales, loves to feed a running back, has already stated this offseason that they're going to establish the run and they want to be a team that leans on the run. Last year, Dave Canales fed Rachaad White the 2nd most touches in the NFL. Now, my running back 27 is Brian Robinson, who in my opinion has been and is the number 1 running back for the Washington Commanders in this new offense led by Cliff Kingsbury and new quarterback Jaden Daniels. Now, right now in camp, you can see this interview by JP Finley. Dan Quinn has told beat reporters that right now he's blown away by what B-Rob, Brian Robinson's ability to run a full route tree this year. He improved last year as a pass catcher, was one of the more efficient pass catching running backs on a per reception basis, and it looks like it's improving so far right now. Now, through one preseason game right now, you can see Robinson has been the running back 1 over the 29-year-old Austin Eckler. He played 55% of the snaps. He played on the early downs. He played in the red zone. He played even on some pass catching snaps. Now, Eckler playing 45% of the snaps is higher than you'd like to see, but again, this was literally just one drive. We're talking about like 9 plays here, as one guy played 5 and one guy played 4. They might just want to see how each guy is in the offense right now. If I'm betting on somebody, it's the younger, more reliable, and definitely more better efficiency-wise last year, Brian Robinson over Eckler. Now we get to my running back 28, and come on down, Devin Singletary, who as of right now is the clear running back 1 in this backfield. It's kind of been stated by his own head coach, and you can see this right here. Another quote that the running back competition is wide open behind Devin Singletary. So this is already assuming that Singletary is the guy. It's only a competition for his RB2 job. And this makes sense given the team gave Singletary a pretty hefty contract, about $10 million guaranteed, and he was handpicked by his former coach, Brian Daboll, to rejoin this team. When he was with Brian Daboll in Buffalo, Singletary averaged 1,000 yards per year. Now, my biggest concern is that this offensive line for the Giants last year was one of the worst in the NFL, and once again this year they might be one of the worst in the NFL because, look, they just have not been able to hit on Evan Neal. You can see right here, one of their first-round picks. Andrew Thomas has been consistently injured. If we can get him healthy, he's one of the best tackles in the game. And now the pieces that they added this offseason were John Runyon of the Packers, okay, like a depth piece. Jermaine Illuminor, I believe, of the Raiders, okay, a depth piece. Like, none of these guys, you're hoping one of them can pop up, but for the most part, this is an offensive line that looks like it's like a half an injury away to Andrew Thomas to, again, being amongst the worst, if not the worst in the league. Now for my running back 29, this is a guy who's been rising a lot in drafts, and it's Zamir White. I'm not as much of a fan in round 6 of taking him as I was in like round 7 or 8, but let's break it down. Because the facts remain that he's going to be in one of the most run-heavy offenses with the Raiders, led by coach Antonio Pierce, who wants to run the ball, and he's now the starter there. And Zamir White isn't one of these like older running backs that's just dusty in the 6th round. No, he's still 24 years old as of this recording. He's a guy who has good size at 214 pounds and elite speed. He's not one of these slow plotters. He's a guy who can hit home runs with 4.4 speed at nearly 220 pounds. That's usually as good as it gets. And we got to see him start 4 games last year, and in those games he averaged over 110 total yards per game and 24 opportunities per contest. They fully trusted and leaned on Zamir White. And right now it looks like his biggest competition is a 6th round rookie in Dylan Lobb, who has been getting a couple of first team reps in 3rd down situations, which makes sense. Dylan Lobb, or Labe, has been an absolute elite at a very small school in college, absolute elite pass catching back. So maybe he sees some usage there, but overall this is Zamir White's backfield on early downs, and I believe he could actually earn some 3rd down usage as well. If he falls into round 7, definitely round 8 of your drafts, that's where he becomes a target. Now my running back 30 is somebody who has been skyrocketing, if you will, up my fantasy rankings, and that's Chase Brown, who's quietly having a great camp, a solid preseason so far, and is quickly securing a potential running back 1 role with the Bengals. Like, we know this guy is explosive, dynamic, can break tackles, is fast, is big, and he's just overall a better athlete than Zach Moss. But what we needed to see was his ability to pass protect, and that's exactly what his own head coach recently said in a press conference during camp, that we're seeing a lot of consistency out of Chase Brown. He's been very consistent. He would go on to say that since last year he's getting a bunch of reps as a pass protector because his consistency, he's reliable. He would go on to say that he's doing everything we're asking of him. So if Chase Brown can actually show he can pass protect, and more importantly protect Joe Burrow, he's going to get on the field a lot as a much more dynamic weapon than Zach Moss. And when you see reports like this coming out in camp about unofficial depth charts that Zach Moss is listed ahead of Chase Brown, of course he's a veteran that they signed money this offseason. That's how it's going to be. But it's all about what's happening in camp. And right now, every single day, almost by the day, we're getting more first team reps from Chase Brown. We're getting him in the preseason, playing with the starters, showing that he can pass protect as well. These are things that are very important. Now, before we get through these final 10 names, and there's a couple of breakout candidates and league winners in here, you want to make sure you want to see them. I want to let you know that 60% of you are not subscribed to this channel right now. The goal is to get to 50% by September 1st, and I can see it's slowly trending that way. So I just want to give you the reminder to hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. I know a lot of people don't remember it, so that's why I'm giving you this nudge. Appreciate you all a ton if you hit that subscribe button. All right, it's time to kick off tier 6 with my running back 31, and that's going to be Raheem Mostert, who last year was the touchdown leader in all of fantasy. Yes, his age is a concern, but this is a guy who's still going to earn 40 to 50% of the snaps in a high-flying Dolphins offense, and now goes in like round 7 or 8 of fantasy drafts. And look, I don't even have to say it myself because Mostert recently said it himself in an interview. I'm always going to be underrated no matter what. I'm an underrated, under-the-radar type of guy. I like that, and I feed off of that stuff. He literally said this a couple days ago. That's exactly what's happening to him in fantasy drafts right now. I think he's a solid pick in those middle rounds. I also think that another solid pick is my running back 32, and it's Taj Spears. We talked about Tony Pollard. This is going to be like a split backfield. They're going to have 2 starters, is what they're saying right now, and based on that report that we showed earlier right here, just their depth chart coming out and the week 1 preseason usage, it does indeed look like Tony Pollard and Taj Spears is going to be a true 1A, 1B situation, maybe a hot hand situation, which why not have both of those guys if they're going late in drafts? And Taj Spears showed last year he's extremely efficient, ranking top 10 in yards per touch amongst all running backs. My running back 33 now is Javonte Williams, who entered camp as a potential camp cut, but by all accounts right now he's the team's running back 1, well ahead of Audric Estime, who didn't even get any starter snaps in the preseason. It was Javonte Williams seeing in the first preseason game with the starters 75% of the snaps. Veteran Samaje Perine as the backup, seeing 25%. This is Javonte's backfield still. And look, the preseason usage already gives us that indication, but even the insider Benjamin Albright for the team said that Javonte is clearly the running back 1 out here in my opinion. So all these reports are kind of just leaning that this is going to be the clear running back 1 situation for Javonte. The problem is the offense looks a little bit sketchy. The quarterback situation, maybe a rookie quarterback in there, so it might not be the best offense to target a running back in, but Javonte does go later in drafts. Next up is my running back 34, Jerome Ford, who should start the season as the running back 1 this year for the Cleveland Browns, because as of right now, if we look through some of these reports coming out, it looks like Nick Chubb, who's coming off of a brutal knee injury, is not likely to be ready, unlikely to be ready to start the season. They're just hoping. They've said that they are quote unquote hopeful he plays at some point this season, not encouraging pushing for Nick Chubb status. And then you had the other veteran on this team, and D'Onta Foreman ended up having to get carted off the field. He was immobilized with a neck injury, so obviously we hope that he's okay. It actually was reported that recently he was able to get back out there and practice, not in any contact format, but he was out there running, so he might be ready for week 1. But either way, Jerome Ford has the inside track to be the guy here. And look, I'm not jumping up and down about Ford as a talent, but he's just going to get the opportunity behind a top 5 offensive line. And last year, he ended up putting up between his rushing and receiving yards over 1,100 total yards, was a top 25 running back, and now he actually has another offseason to kind of prepare and be the guy behind this healthier Browns offensive line. Now we kick off my tier 7 with my running back 35, Zach Moss. We talked about him earlier. I prefer Chase Brown here. Zach Moss signed with this team this offseason. He got a decent amount of money. He's a guy who's known to be a pass protector. He's a guy you can rely on to get you 3.5 or 4 yards, but he doesn't have the explosive upside as a Chase Brown. So I do prefer Chase Brown. Right now, I'm not targeting Zach Moss in drafts, in my opinion. He does have one of the better offenses that he should be in. If there was a time to play Zach Moss, it probably would be at the start of the year before Chase Brown has a chance to take over. So if you did draft him, make sure you get your utilization out of him those first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. Now for my running backs 36 and 37, I'm going to touch on both of the Dallas Cowboys running backs, Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, who as of right now, reports are that the Cowboys haven't picked their number 1 running back in camp or the preseason, but it's looking like it's actually going to be Rico Dowdle. And we're getting some nice reports for Rico Dowdle, like right here. The Athletic calls him the face of the committee right now. The reports are currently everywhere out there. You can see another one right here by Jeff Kavanaugh. He said if he had to pick a guy right now, that it would be Rico Dowdle is the best running back out here in camp with the pads on, and there's no arguing about that. More recent reports that have come out that said it's basically Rico Dowdle's job. So this is all good news. You want the number 1 running back in the Cowboys in round 12 or 13 of drafts. That's a ton of value. But the one concern is I still have to see it, because Dowdle was effective last year, top 20 in running back efficiency, but he's never started a game. He's barely cracked 100 touches in a season. I still think the Cowboys are going to lean on Ezekiel Elliott on third downs, maybe in the red zone, pass protection situations, more than we would like to see. So as of right now, though, I think Dowdle in round 12 is a great pick. I think Zeke is also a fine option. If I had to choose one, I would pick Dowdle, but I'm a little bit hesitant due to his inexperience, and we just know the Cowboys love to use Zeke. Next man up is my running back 38. He's Blake Corum. We talked about him earlier with Kyren Williams. This is a guy that he has been described by Sean McVay as a clone of Kyren Williams, and he should probably play 30 to maybe even 40% of the snaps this year as a rookie. I do believe that Corum is firmly behind Kyren Williams, like we talked about earlier, but he was a talented running back, maybe the best running back in college football the last 3 seasons. So this is a guy that I believe should earn a role this year, but probably just more so one of the better backup running backs or handcuffs in the league, rather than actually somebody who's going to take a job away from Kyren. Now my running back 39 is somebody who admittedly has been falling for me, and it's been the running back, the rookie in Arizona, Trey Benson, who right now reportedly isn't having a spectacular start to camp, hasn't looked good in their preseason game, looked pretty inefficient, although very few touches. But this is the stuff that really worries me. His own head coach, Jonathan Gannon, basically if you were to listen to this clip right here, you can see that Coach Speak Index, a great account on Twitter, says that Jonathan Gannon talks here for 2 minutes and 23 seconds, basically telling you to stop drafting Trey Benson at his current ADP, which is about round 10, round 9 in drafts. He's just saying a lot of things that Trey Benson has to improve upon, but he's also a rookie running back, and these things do happen, and then they show their talent in the season, and it's hard to deny that. Like right now, Trey Benson is number 2 in the depth chart, but another concerning thing is that right now in camp, Amari DeMarcado has been getting a lot more of the first team reps. You can see that right here. Amari DeMarcado got some usage last year, seeing more of the first team offense reps, which in my opinion is a little bit of a concern for Trey Benson. Again, he is a rookie, but you would hope that right away he can become the clear RB2, kind of like guys like Tyron Tracy are doing in their backfields with the Giants, and Ray Davis, the rookie, with the Bills. And to close the show today with my running back 40, we look at Zach Charbonnet, the running back 2 right now for a Seattle team that could lead to him seeing a little bit more passing game usage. As we mentioned earlier, their new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, wants to throw the ball more. Charbonnet is a talented pass catcher out of the backfield. Maybe he gets some more usage. But as we also showed earlier, there's been multiple different reports now that Kenneth Walker is looking like, as we showed the same exact quote earlier, a star in practice and a back who can do it all in all 3 downs, including pass protection. So right now, kind of my hype for Zach Charbonnet has cooled a little bit, but not a ton, because I do believe he's still the better pass catcher than Kenneth Walker when it's all said and done. We'll see if that plays out during the season. So these have been the top 40 running backs. It's going to be kind of your guide to the running back position in your fantasy draft. But if you want to see the guys at every position who are the breakouts, the must-have breakout candidates for this year, well, check out this video right here. All you do is you click on it, YouTube takes you to it, you enjoy that one, you get even smarter, so you can schmack around your friends in fantasy this year. Sounds like a plan. Click that video. See you in the next one.